"The boy is not disappearing," Marcus Reed said. "He is trying to tell you what is hurting him." The sentence cut through the pediatric intensive care hallway, just as Dr. Adrian Cole lowered his eyes from the monitor and told Evelyn Whitmore there were no clear options left. Beyond the glass, 9-year-old Noah lay beneath a white blanket while silent visual alarms flashed beside his bed. His breathing had become shallow, his face pale beneath the low hospital lights. Evelyn stood with one hand pressed against the window, still holding the phone she had used to summon specialists from New York, Boston, and Houston. She had offered private flights, unrestricted fees, and access to every laboratory owned by Whitmore Biotech. Money had brought experts into the room. It had not brought them an answer. "You are not stopping," she told Dr. Cole. "I did not say we were stopping," he replied. "I said his neurological activity is becoming harder to control, and we still do not understand the trigger." At the far end of the hallway, Marcus stood beside an open electrical panel in a gray maintenance uniform. A voltage tester rested in his hand, but his attention had been fixed on Noah for the past 4 minutes. Each time a narrow blue indicator flickered beside the bed and a high confirmation tone escaped from one of the devices, Noah's left index finger moved against the sheet. Once, twice. Pause. The monitor changed several seconds later. The doctors were watching the numbers. Marcus was watching what happened before them. He set down the tester and stepped closer to the glass. "His hand moves first," he said. Dr. Vanessa Grant turned toward him. "Who are you?" "Marcus Reed. Facilities Engineering." Evelyn looked at his work boots, his tool belt, and the name stitched above his shirt pocket. "Then return to the equipment you were assigned to repair." Marcus did not raise his voice. "The equipment may be showing you the pattern." Vanessa glanced through the glass. "Those movements could be involuntary." "Then watch the order." A blue light flickered. A thin electronic tone followed. Noah's finger moved once, twice, then stopped. 3 seconds later, the monitor displayed another sudden change. Dr. Cole looked from the screen to Noah's hand. For the first time, hesitation crossed his face. Evelyn saw it and turned back toward Marcus. "What do you think is happening?" "I think everyone is treating what the machines report after the episode begins," Marcus said. "No one is listening to what the boy does before it begins." Thomas Bell, the hospital administrator, arrived with a security officer behind him. "Mr. Reed, you need to leave this floor." Marcus stayed focused on Noah. The boy's lips moved beneath the oxygen mask, forming words too faint for anyone inside the room to hear. Marcus had seen children speak that way before, using rhythm when fear or weakness had taken their voices. He looked at the clock above the intensive care doors. It was 7:42 in the evening. 12 miles away, his 8-year-old daughter was waiting beside a wooden bridge at her school science showcase, trusting him to keep his promise and sit in the front row. The security officer touched Marcus lightly at the elbow. Marcus allowed himself to be guided toward the elevator, but he looked back one final time. The blue indicator flickered. Noah's finger did not move. The high tone sounded again. Still nothing. Dr. Cole stepped closer to the bed. Evelyn pressed both hands against the glass. Marcus stopped beside the elevator doors. "You have less time than you think," he said. Then every person in the hallway watched Noah's hand become completely still. 8 hours earlier, Marcus Reed stood in the narrow kitchen of his apartment, pressing a loose wooden support beneath Lily's science project while she watched him with the serious expression of someone supervising an important repair. The bridge stretched 18 inches across the table, built from craft sticks, glue, and 3 weeks of careful work. Its top looked level, but the center sagged whenever Lily placed weight on it. "Everyone keeps looking up here," she said, touching the platform. Marcus turned the bridge slightly and pointed underneath. "That is because people notice what carries the weight after they notice the weight itself." Lily leaned closer. "So the part nobody sees is the important part. Usually." She smiled and pressed the support into place. At 8 years old, Lily had her father's dark brown eyes, quiet patience, and habit of asking one more question than adults expected. Yellow ribbons held her braids away from her face, matching the cardigan hanging over the back of her chair. A bright flyer was attached to the refrigerator behind her. Lincoln Elementary Science Showcase. 8 o'clock. Lily had written front row beneath it in thick red marker. "You are still coming tonight," she said. Marcus reached for his coffee. That did not sound like a question. "It is not." "Then yes. Even if the hospital calls you upstairs." His hand paused around the mug. Facilities engineering does not get called upstairs for every problem. Lily studied him. You always go when a child is scared. Marcus looked toward the window. Chicago was covered in low gray clouds, and the weather report warned that heavy rain would arrive before evening. I repair machines, he said. That is my job. Lily did not argue, but her expression made it clear that she knew the answer was incomplete. By 7:15, they were driving toward St. Catherine Medical Center with the bridge secured across Lily's lap. When the hospital appeared ahead, Marcus changed lanes and entered through the service drive instead of passing the emergency entrance. Lily turned toward him. You took the long way again. The employee lot is closer. There were empty spaces by emergency. Marcus kept his eyes on the road. This entrance is easier. She remained quiet for several seconds. You do not like the sounds near that door. Marcus tightened his hands slightly around the steering wheel. Nobody likes hospital alarms. You hear them differently. He had no answer for that, so he asked whether she had remembered her presentation cards. Lily understood that the subject was closed. Inside the hospital, Marcus checked her in for a routine appointment before his shift began. The pediatric waiting room was already busy. A little boy near the far wall began breathing too quickly when a nurse called his name. His mother knelt beside him, asking him to calm down, but her fear only made his grow. Marcus set down his coffee and crouched several feet away. I need help finding 5 blue things, he said. The boy stared at him. Why? Because I can only find 4, and that means you are better at this than I am. The child pointed toward a poster, a plastic chair, a nurse's badge, Lily's backpack, and the blue stripe on Marcus's identification card. By the 5th object, his breathing had begun to slow. Marcus never touched him. He simply kept his voice steady until the nurse took over. Rachel Bennett had watched from the clinic desk. Facilities engineering teaches that now? She asked. Marcus picked up his coffee. Facilities engineering teaches you to notice small problems before they become large ones. Rachel looked at the child, then back at Marcus. You knew exactly what to say. I knew enough to help him focus. That is not the same thing. Marcus checked the clock. Lily has an appointment. He walked away before Rachel could ask another question. After the checkup, Mrs. Alvarez arrived to take Lily to school. Lily hugged Marcus, then held up one finger. Front row, he promised. She started toward the entrance, then turned back. And do not hide downstairs all day. Marcus smiled faintly. Go to school. He watched her leave before entering the service elevator. As the doors began to close, a heart monitor sounded somewhere beyond the emergency department. 3 thin notes. Marcus froze. For one moment, the bright hallway disappeared, replaced by another hospital, another storm, and the night he had learned that knowing every step did not mean he could bring someone home. The elevator waited with its doors open. Marcus stepped inside and pressed the button for the maintenance level. I repair machines, he whispered to the empty car. That is all. At 11:23 that morning, Noah Whitmore stood beneath the glass ceiling of the Lakeshore Innovation Center while cameras flashed and investors gathered around his mother. Evelyn Whitmore was preparing to announce a partnership worth nearly $400 million, and every person in the room seemed to be waiting for her next word. Noah stood near the edge of the stage, turning a blue fitness band around his wrist. The device had been part of a private test for Whitmore Biotech, and Evelyn had given it to him 3 days earlier because he wanted one that matched hers. He had complained about it twice. The first time, he said the light felt too bright. The second time, he said the sound seemed to follow him after the screen went dark. Evelyn had promised to ask an engineer about it, then allowed the promise to disappear beneath meetings, phone calls, and schedules. Now Noah tugged at the sleeve of her cream-colored jacket. Mom. Evelyn kept smiling toward the photographers. 1 minute, sweetheart. The blue is singing again. She looked down. Noah's face had become pale, and his left hand was pressed behind his ear. What do you mean? The light sounds sharp. Evelyn lowered the microphone. Lights do not make sounds. This one does. He blinked several times, and the room feels far away. The practiced calm left Evelyn's face. She reached for him just as his knees weakened. Within seconds, the celebration became a circle of frightened voices. Security cleared space. An assistant called emergency services. Evelyn knelt beside her son, repeating his name while the blue band flashed against his wrist. Noah remained aware long enough to whisper one final sentence. Please make it stop singing. By noon, 3 black sport utility vehicles were parked outside St. Catherine Medical Center, and reporters had gathered across the street beneath umbrellas. Evelyn had called the hospital chief executive officer before the ambulance reached the emergency entrance. Dr. Adrian Cole met them upstairs. Dr. Vanessa Grant was summoned from another hospital. Specialists in Boston and Houston joined through secure video calls. Evelyn used every connection she had, but each new expert asked questions she could not answer. Had Noah complained about headaches? Had he become sensitive to sound? Had he experienced dizziness? How many nights had he slept poorly? Evelyn knew the size of his education fund, the names of his teachers, and the schedule of every future appointment arranged by her staff. She did not know when he had last woken from a nightmare or why he had started covering his left ear at breakfast. His nanny may know, she said. Dr. Cole wrote something in the chart. Did he mention the fitness band before today? Evelyn hesitated. He said it bothered him. How? He used the same words. He said the blue was singing. Across the hallway, Marcus Reed was repairing the power connection on a mobile imaging unit that had been brought upstairs for Noah. He heard Evelyn repeat the phrase through the open consultation room door. His hand stopped. Children often described the body with the language available to them. Pressure became heaviness. Dizziness became a moving room. Pain became a color or a sound. Marcus tightened the final connection and wheeled the machine toward Noah's room. A narrow blue indicator began flashing along its side as the system started. Then a high confirmation tone sounded. Noah's eyes opened. His left shoulder tightened, and his hand rose toward the side of his head. 3 seconds later, the monitor beside him registered a sudden change. Marcus stopped the cart. Did he do that at the event? Dr. Grant turned from the bed. Who are you speaking to? Anyone who saw him before he collapsed. Evelyn stepped between Marcus and Noah. He is from facilities. Marcus kept his eyes on the boy. The sound came first. Dr. Grant glanced toward the imaging unit. His movement may have been involuntary. Then watch what happens before the next change. Evelyn's fear sharpened her voice. You need to leave. Marcus did not argue. He looked toward the clear belongings bag on the counter. The blue fitness band flashed once inside it. A thin tone followed. Noah's fingers tightened against the blanket. The monitor changed moments later. Marcus saw the sequence again, but Thomas Bell, the hospital administrator, was already guiding the cart away. As Marcus entered the hallway, he heard Dr. Cole ask Evelyn whether Noah had ever suffered an injury near his left ear. Her answer came slowly. He fell from a sailboat last summer. The scans were clear. They said he was fine. Marcus looked back through the glass. Noah's lips moved beneath the oxygen mask, but no sound reached the adults surrounding him. The child was still trying to explain, and everyone in the room was still waiting for a machine to tell them what he had already said. By 1:45 that afternoon, Noah's room had become a place where every answer seemed to create 2 more questions. His blood work had ruled out several common causes, but the neurological tests remained inconclusive. One specialist suspected an inner ear disorder. Another believed the episode might have been triggered by stress. Dr. Vanessa Grant reviewed the results twice, while Dr. Adrian Cole stood beside the central monitor, watching numbers that refused to form a reliable pattern. Noah would appear stable for several minutes. Then his left hand would tighten, his breathing would change, and the readings would shift without warning. Evelyn remained at the bedside, using the same determined voice that had built her company. There must be something you have not tested. Dr. Cole kept his tone calm. There are always more tests. The challenge is knowing which one helps him before the testing itself becomes another burden. Evelyn looked toward Noah. Then choose correctly. Outside the room, Marcus worked beside an open electrical cabinet, checking the additional load created by the equipment brought onto the floor. He had been told not to approach the patient again, but the hallway gave him something the room did not give the doctors: distance. From there, he could watch the order of events instead of reacting to each alarm after it began. A nurse lowered the overhead lights, and Noah's fingers relaxed. A portable scanner completed a system check. Its blue status light flickered rapidly while a high confirmation tone sounded. Noah turned his face away. His left shoulder tightened. 3 seconds later, the monitor registered another change. Marcus wrote the time on the back of his work order: 1:48. 7 minutes later, a medication pump released 2 soft tones while a blue indicator flashed. Noah's fingers curled against the sheet before the monitor changed again. Marcus wrote down the second time. Rachel Bennett stepped into the hallway carrying an empty tray. Marcus held up the work order. What happened immediately before the last 2 episodes? Rachel looked toward the room. You were told to stay away from the case. I am standing beside an electrical cabinet. You know what I mean. Marcus lowered his voice. The machines are not telling you what starts it. They are telling you what happens after it starts. Rachel studied the times he had written. You have been tracking him. I have been tracking the room. A technician activated another machine nearby. A blue light appeared, but no sound followed. Noah did not react. Marcus waited. The machine released a thin electronic chirp. Noah's left hand tightened. Rachel's expression changed. That could still be coincidence. Then record the next one. Rachel returned to the room and spoke quietly to Dr. Cole. Vanessa looked toward Marcus through the glass, clearly irritated, but Cole asked Rachel to document every sound, light, and active device before each change in Noah's condition. Over the next 20 minutes, the pattern repeated twice. Not every sound affected him. Not every blue light mattered. The reaction appeared only when rapid blue flickering occurred near a narrow, high-pitched alert tone. Vanessa studied the timeline. This may be an audio-visual reflex response, she said, but a pattern is not a diagnosis. Cole nodded. We need continuous neurological monitoring during a controlled reduction of stimulation. Evelyn turned toward them. Are you saying the fitness band caused this? Not necessarily, Vanessa replied. It may have exposed a sensitivity that was already present. Marcus heard the distinction and respected it. He returned his attention to the electrical panel, but Vanessa stepped into the hallway. Mr. Reed. Marcus stood. Doctor, you should not have continued observing a patient after being told to leave. I was observing hospital equipment. Do not hide behind words. Marcus met her gaze without anger. I am not asking you to accept my conclusion. I am asking you to accept the sequence. Dr. Cole joined them. What would you change first? Vanessa looked at him. Adrian. I asked him. A question. Marcus pointed through the glass. Move critical alarms to the nurse's station. Keep visual monitoring in the room. Reduce the flickering light and remove every non-essential device that produces the same tone. Then compare the neurological activity before and after. Vanessa folded her arms. You are suggesting changes to an intensive care environment without clinical authority. I am suggesting a safer way to test what keeps happening. Evelyn stepped into the hallway. And if he is wrong? Marcus looked at Noah. Then you lose a few minutes and prove the pattern does not matter. And if you are right? She asked. Before Marcus could answer, the blue fitness band flashed inside the clear belongings bag. Its high tone sounded. Noah's left hand tightened first. The neurological monitor changed several seconds later. Rachel looked at Cole. Cole looked at Vanessa. Marcus kept his voice low. Then those few minutes may be the reason he still has time. Evelyn Whitmore looked from Noah's tightening hand to the blue fitness band inside the clear belongings bag, and for the first time that afternoon, her certainty gave way to fear. Turn it off, she said. Rachel Bennett reached for the bag, but Dr. Vanessa Grant stopped her. We need to document the change before we remove it. Dr. Adrian Cole nodded. Record the time, then place it in the shielded cabinet. Rachel carried the bag across the room and sealed it inside a metal storage unit designed to block electronic signals. The flashing stopped. The high tone disappeared. Noah's fingers slowly relaxed, but the neurological monitor still showed unstable activity. Vanessa watched the screen. The trigger may be gone, but the response is continuing. Marcus remained in the hallway, saying nothing. He had shown them the sequence. Now the room had to decide whether a man in a maintenance uniform was allowed to be right. Thomas Bell arrived before that decision could be made. The hospital administrator listened to Evelyn describe Marcus as an unauthorized employee interfering with her son's care. He listened to Vanessa explain that the observation might be clinically useful but had not yet been verified. Then he turned toward Marcus with the careful expression of a man already thinking about liability. Mr. Reed, return to the maintenance level immediately. Effective now, you are not permitted on the pediatric intensive care floor unless your supervisor assigns you here in writing. Marcus looked through the glass at Noah. Before I go, remove every non-essential device that produces the same tone or rapid blue flicker. Route critical alarms to the nurse's station. Keep continuous visual monitoring in the room. Thomas raised one hand. You are no longer part of this conversation. I was never part of it, Marcus said. That is the problem. Vanessa stepped closer. You made an observation. That does not give you authority to direct treatment. Marcus kept his voice level. I am not directing treatment. I am asking you not to ignore what happens before the numbers change. Evelyn turned toward him. You have no right to speak as though you understand my son. Marcus met her eyes. I understand what it looks like when a child is trying to explain something and the adults around him have already decided his words do not make sense. The sentence landed harder than he intended. Evelyn's expression shifted, but fear quickly hardened it again. Remove him. 2 security officers approached from the nurse's station. Marcus picked up his tool bag without resistance. Place where I had no right to speak. Lily looked through the glass at Noah. Is that the boy who is sick? Yes. Can you help him? Marcus looked at the bridge in her hands. One support beneath the center had loosened again. He pressed it carefully back into place. I do not know if I can help him. But you noticed something. I noticed a pattern. Lily studied his face. That sounds like helping. Marcus lowered his voice. Being right does not give us permission to be reckless. But being ignored does not give us permission to walk away. Before Lily could answer, an urgent visual alert flashed above Noah's door. Rachel moved quickly toward the bed. Vanessa called for continuous electroencephalogram monitoring. Dr. Cole looked toward the sealed cabinet, then toward a medication pump near the wall. Its blue status light flickered rapidly as a narrow confirmation tone sounded. Noah's left hand tightened. Marcus stood. That pump is reproducing the same pattern. Thomas stepped between him and the doors. You are leaving this floor. Marcus pointed through the glass. Watch his hand. Cole looked. Noah's fingers moved once, twice, then stopped. Several seconds later, the neurological tracing shifted. Rachel saw it too. She turned toward Cole, and the hesitation in his face disappeared. Move the audible alert to the nurse's station, he ordered. Cover the bedside indicator and keep direct visual observation. Vanessa looked at him. Adrian, we still do not have a diagnosis. No, Cole said, watching Noah. But we finally have a testable trigger. Thomas began to object, but Cole raised a hand. I am taking responsibility. Then he looked past the administrator toward Marcus. For the first time, he did not see a maintenance employee standing outside the room. He saw the only person who had been watching Noah before the machines told everyone else to be afraid. Rachel Bennett moved quickly to transfer the medication pump alert to the nurse's station, while a technician covered the bedside indicator and confirmed that the pump would remain fully monitored. The room grew quieter, and Noah's left hand slowly relaxed against the sheet. Dr. Adrian Cole watched the neurological tracing without speaking. Dr. Vanessa Grant adjusted the continuous electroencephalogram leads and studied the pattern that followed. The abnormal activity is decreasing, she said. Not enough to call it stable, but the trigger response is real. Thomas Bell did not look relieved. He looked concerned about what the discovery meant for every decision made before it. A testable trigger does not authorize an uncredentialed employee to enter a clinical discussion. Cole turned toward him. No one is authorizing Mr. Reed to practice medicine. Then why is he still on this floor? Because he noticed something the clinical team did not. The answer was simple, but it changed the air between them. Marcus stood beside Lily and Mrs. Alvarez near the elevators, his tool bag still in one hand. He had expected Thomas to protect the rules. What surprised him was the strain in Cole's voice. The doctor did not sound offended anymore. He sounded afraid. Rachel stepped into the hallway and approached Marcus. How did you know to watch what happened before the monitors changed? She asked. Marcus glanced at Lily. Experience. What kind of experience? The kind I stopped using a long time ago. Rachel held his gaze. Noah may not have a long time. Marcus looked toward the glass. Noah's fingers moved faintly beneath the blanket. Once, twice, then rested. Lily slipped her hand into her father's. You always tell me that secrets get heavier when we carry them alone, she said. Marcus lowered his eyes. He had said those words to her after her mother died, when Lily had been too young to explain grief, but old enough to feel it following them through every room. Rachel returned to the nurse's station and searched Marcus's name in the employee directory. His current record listed 8 years in facilities engineering, electrical certification, and an excellent safety history. Nothing more. She searched the hospital's public archive and found an old community newsletter. The photograph showed a younger Marcus in military fatigues beside several children wrapped in emergency blankets. The article identified Staff Sergeant Marcus Reed as a combat medic who had kept 7 children stable during an evacuation after a field clinic lost power. Rachel looked up slowly. You were a medic. Marcus nodded once. Vanessa came closer to the screen. Military medicine does not automatically qualify someone to interpret pediatric neurological activity. No, Marcus said. It does not. Cole asked the credentialing office to verify whether Marcus had any additional training. Several minutes later, the reply appeared. After leaving the military, Marcus had completed advanced pediatric emergency response courses through a program once affiliated with St. Catherine. The certification had expired 6 years earlier. Cole removed his glasses. Why did you let it expire? Marcus looked at Lily before answering. Because training teaches you what to do. It does not teach you how to live with the person you could not save. The hallway became still. 6 years ago, my wife was brought into an emergency room during a storm, he continued. I arrived before the full team was ready. I knew every number on the monitor. I knew what each change meant. I knew when the people around her stopped believing she would come home. Lily tightened her grip on his hand. Marcus kept his voice steady. After that, I could not stand beside another bed without hearing the same alarms. So I took a job repairing the machines. Close enough to help. Far enough not to pretend I could control the outcome. Cole stared through the glass at Noah. You think I dismissed you because I believed I was better than you? Marcus said nothing. Cole continued. The truth is that every unverified decision I make becomes part of that boy's last chance. If I move too quickly and I am wrong, I carry that choice for the rest of my life. Marcus studied him. For the first time, he saw not a proud physician defending his title, but another man afraid of failing a child. You think I get to walk away if I am wrong? Marcus said. Cole looked at him. Do you? Men like me are rarely allowed to be wrong quietly. People remember the uniform before they remember why we spoke. Vanessa folded her arms, but the hardness in her expression had faded. Then tell us only what you observed. Marcus nodded toward Noah's room. The sound and flashing light are triggers, not the diagnosis. His response begins before the machines report it. The fitness band and several hospital devices reproduce the same pattern. You need to confirm the neurological activity under controlled conditions and treat what the trigger is starting. Cole looked at Vanessa. She gave a careful nod. That is medically reasonable. Thomas stepped forward. You cannot bring him into the room. Cole turned toward the access door. I can document him as a temporary observational consultant under my direct supervision. He will not touch equipment, order treatment, or speak for the medical team. Then he faced Marcus. You speak to me. I decide what happens. Marcus nodded. Understood. Inside the room, Noah's fingers moved once, twice, followed by a pause. Cole saw the signal. This time, he opened the door before anyone had to ask. Marcus stepped through the access door and stopped exactly where Dr. Adrian Cole directed him. He did not approach the bed. He did not touch the monitors. He listened. The room had been stripped of nearly every unnecessary sound, but one faint electronic pulse remained beneath the hum of the ventilation system. Noah's left fingers moved once, twice, then tightened against the sheet. Marcus turned toward the supply counter. Something is still producing the pattern. The technician checked the active equipment. The bedside units are silent. Critical alerts are routed to the nurse's station. Dr. Vanessa Grant looked at the continuous electroencephalogram tracing. The abnormal activity is rising again. Marcus followed the sound with his eyes until he saw a small tracking tag attached to the portable imaging cart. Its blue indicator flickered in short bursts while a high confirmation tone escaped from the speaker. The equipment locator, he said. Remove the tag or move the cart out of the room. Cole nodded to the technician. The cart was rolled into the hallway. Within seconds, Noah's hand loosened, and the neurological tracing began to settle. Vanessa watched the screen carefully. That confirms the trigger pattern, but not the underlying condition. Evelyn stood beside the bed with both hands wrapped around Noah's right hand. What else do you need? A controlled comparison, Vanessa said. We need to confirm whether the same combination of rapid blue flicker and high-pitched sound produces the neurological response without exposing him to unnecessary risk. Cole shook his head. He is too unstable for deliberate stimulation. Marcus agreed immediately. Then do not recreate it. Use the episodes you already recorded. Match the exact timing of the devices to the electroencephalogram. Vanessa looked at him with new attention. That could give us the sequence without another exposure. Rachel began collecting the device logs while the technician retrieved timestamps from the medication pump, fitness band, and imaging cart. Outside the glass, Lily stood beside Mrs. Alvarez with her wooden bridge held against her chest. The clear belongings bag containing Noah's blue fitness band rested on a counter several feet away. Suddenly, a faint tone came from inside the shielded cabinet before the cabinet door closed completely. Lily tilted her head. "Dad?" she called through the intercom. "The blue thing is singing again." Every adult in the room looked toward her. Marcus did not. He looked at Noah. The boy's left fingers tightened a fraction of a second after the tone. Vanessa looked at the tracing. A sharp neurological change appeared moments later. Lily had heard the same order Marcus had been trying to explain all day. She raised the bridge slightly and pointed beneath its center. "Everyone keeps looking at the top," she said. "But the weak part is underneath." Marcus stared at the bridge, then at the timeline Rachel was building on the screen. The doctors had been studying the visible crisis after it began. The hidden structure was the repeated sequence beneath it. Blue flicker, high tone, left-sided tension, neurological spike, changes in breathing and heart rhythm. "It is not one device," Marcus said. "It is the combination." The fitness band introduced the full pattern, and several hospital devices reproduced enough of it to keep triggering the same response. Vanessa reviewed the synchronized logs. The electroencephalogram supports that. The abnormal electrical activity begins after the audiovisual pattern and before the visible symptoms. Cole looked toward Noah's chart. "A form of reflex epilepsy? Possibly audiovisual reflex seizures," Vanessa said. "Rare, but consistent with the sequence." Evelyn touched Noah's hair. "Why would this start now?" Vanessa answered carefully. "The sensitivity may have existed before the band. The injury near his left ear could have complicated the early symptoms, which is why he described sound, balance, and distance together. But the injury may not be the direct cause." Marcus respected the caution in her words. No miracle diagnosis had appeared. They had finally found a direction that could be tested and treated. Cole ordered every remaining bedside trigger removed. Critical alarms stayed active at the nurse's station under continuous observation. The room was dimmed without becoming unsafe. Vanessa prepared medication intended to control the abnormal electrical activity. Thomas Bell appeared at the doorway. "Do we have enough evidence to proceed?" Cole looked at the synchronized tracing, then at Noah. "We have enough evidence to treat the neurological response while we continue confirming the diagnosis." Thomas glanced at Marcus. "And his role?" "He observed the sequence," Cole said. "The clinical team is making the medical decision." Marcus remained silent. He did not need the room to call him a hero. He needed the room to stop missing the child. Vanessa administered the medication. For several minutes, the tracing continued to rise and fall. Evelyn leaned close to Noah. "I am here," she whispered. "I am listening now." Noah's fingers shifted weakly toward her voice. Then the abnormal activity began to slow. Rachel looked at Vanessa. "He is responding." Cole exhaled, but no one celebrated. They had not reached safety yet. Beyond the glass, Lily repaired the loose support beneath her bridge with her thumb. Marcus watched her, understanding that she had done more than identify a sound. She had reminded every adult in the room that the most important truth was often hidden beneath the part everyone thought they understood. The medication reduced the abnormal electrical activity, but Noah did not wake. Dr. Vanessa Grant watched the continuous tracing while Dr. Adrian Cole reviewed the synchronized device logs for a third time. The sharp neurological spikes had become smaller, yet they had not disappeared completely. Evelyn remained beside the bed, holding her son's hand as though letting go might invite the room to become uncertain again. "Why is he not opening his eyes?" she asked. Vanessa answered carefully. "His brain has been under repeated stress for hours. Stability has to come before consciousness." "How long?" "I cannot give you an honest number." Evelyn closed her eyes, but she did not argue. The woman who had spent her life demanding deadlines had finally reached a moment that could not be managed by one. Marcus stood near the observation line, listening to the quieter room. Critical alarms remained active at the nurse's station, where another nurse watched Noah's readings continuously. Nothing had been disabled for convenience. Every safety system had simply been moved away from the child whose nervous system had begun interpreting ordinary signals as danger. Rachel entered with the completed timeline. The fitness band produced the full audiovisual pattern first, she said. The imaging cart and medication pump reproduced shorter versions. Each event matches the electroencephalogram, changes within seconds. Vanessa studied the report. That is strong evidence for audiovisual reflex seizures. Cole nodded. We continue treatment, maintain the reduced stimulation environment, and bring in the epilepsy team for confirmation. Thomas Bell stood outside the room with the legal representative, but neither interrupted. The evidence had done what Marcus's title could not. It had given his observation permission to matter. Noah's fingers moved faintly beneath Evelyn's hand. She leaned closer. Noah. His eyelids remained closed. Marcus noticed that several people began speaking at once. Rachel called out the change. Vanessa asked for an updated reading. Cole answered a question from the nurse's station. Their voices were calm, but together they formed a wall of sound. Noah's left shoulder tightened. Marcus looked at Cole. One voice. Cole understood immediately. Everyone else quiet. The room settled. Vanessa continued watching the tracing while Cole stepped back. Marcus hesitated. He had been invited to observe, not to lead. Cole looked at him. He responded to you before. Speak to him. Marcus moved one step closer, leaving enough distance for the clinical team to work. Noah, this is Marcus. The blue light is covered. The sharp sound is gone. Your mother is holding your hand. Noah's fingers moved once. Marcus continued in the slow rhythm he had used with frightened children years earlier. You do not have to explain anything now. We heard you. Follow my voice and take your time. Evelyn bent toward her son. I am here, sweetheart. I am not going anywhere. Noah's breathing began to match the spaces between Marcus's words. Vanessa watched the tracing. The remaining activity is slowing. Marcus kept his voice steady, but the memory of another hospital room rose behind his eyes. Rain against glass. Lily asleep in Mrs. Alvarez's arms. His wife beneath white sheets while every number he understood moved in the wrong direction. For 6 years, he had believed that stepping beside another bed would mean returning to the moment he failed. Now he understood that grief had lied to him. Knowledge had not failed his wife. Love had not failed her. Some losses could not be prevented, but hiding from every future child would never change the past. Beyond the glass, Lily lifted her wooden bridge. The repaired support beneath the center held firm. Marcus looked at her and drew one slow breath. Stay with us, Noah, he said. You are not alone in this room. Noah's fingers closed weakly around Evelyn's hand. Her face changed as she felt it. He squeezed me. Vanessa checked the tracing. That was purposeful. Cole moved closer, but kept his voice low. Noah, open your eyes when you are ready. Several seconds passed. Then Noah's eyelids lifted halfway. He looked first at his mother, then toward the covered blue indicators and the silent equipment. Finally, his gaze found Marcus. His voice was faint, but every person in the room heard it. Did you hear it too? Marcus looked at the boy who had spent an entire day speaking through colors, rhythm, and fear while adults searched for more complicated answers. I heard you, he said. Noah's eyes closed again, but his breathing remained even. Vanessa reviewed the monitor and allowed herself the smallest smile. He is resting. The seizure activity has stopped. Evelyn covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. Cole lowered his shoulders. Rachel turned toward the window, blinking rapidly. Marcus stepped backward, leaving the center of the room to Noah and his mother. Evelyn leaned over her son, whispering words meant only for him. Outside the glass, Lily pressed her palm to the window. Marcus placed his hand against the other side. The clock above the doors had passed 8 long ago, and the front row seat at her science showcase had remained empty. Lily smiled anyway. She understood something the adults had taken all day to learn. A promise was not only about arriving where someone expected you. Sometimes it was about refusing to leave the place where a human voice might disappear unless one person stayed long enough to hear it. Noah remained under continuous observation for 2 more days, but the room no longer felt like a place where everyone was waiting for the worst. The epilepsy team confirmed that he had experienced rare audiovisual reflex seizures triggered by the combination of rapid blue flickering and a narrow high-pitched alert pattern. The fitness band had exposed the sensitivity, while several hospital devices had unintentionally reproduced parts of the same pattern. With the triggers removed and the neurological activity controlled, Noah began recovering steadily. By the 3rd morning, he was sitting upright beneath a gray blanket, drinking apple juice through a straw while Evelyn sat beside him with her phone turned off. No assistants waited outside. No investors called for updates. For the first time in years, she allowed an entire hour to pass without checking the time. "Does anything still sound sharp?" she asked. Noah thought carefully. "No. It is quiet now." Evelyn lowered her eyes. "I should have. Listen when you told me." Noah looked toward the doorway, where Marcus stood beside Lily. He did. Marcus had returned to his gray maintenance uniform, but the staff no longer looked through him when he passed. Reporters outside the hospital had begun calling him the man who solved what the doctors could not. Whitmore Biotech prepared a statement describing an overlooked employee who had done what experts believed was impossible. Marcus refused to approve it. When Evelyn asked why, he answered without pride or resentment. "Your son was not saved because one man embarrassed a room full of doctors. He was saved because a room full of skilled people became willing to admit they were missing something." Dr. Adrian Cole heard him from the hallway. That afternoon, Cole gathered the physicians, nurses, technicians, and administrators in a conference room. Thomas Bell sat near the end of the table, unusually quiet. Cole did not defend the way Marcus had been treated. "I dismissed a useful observation because of the uniform worn by the person who made it," he said. "That was not caution. It was pride hidden inside procedure." He turned toward Marcus. "I am sorry." Marcus accepted the apology with a quiet nod. He did not ask for anyone to lose a job. Instead, he asked why a nurse, technician, custodian, parent, or child had no clear way to report a pattern without first proving that a title gave them permission to speak. Within a month, St. Catherine created a rapid observation system that allowed any employee or family member to document environmental changes connected to a patient's condition. Rachel Bennett joined the team that designed it. Vanessa helped establish the clinical review process. Thomas required department leaders to complete new training on communication, professional bias, and safety reporting. Evelyn suspended the fitness platform until an independent review could verify its safety for neurologically vulnerable users. Then she funded a national program called the Listening Initiative, which helped hospitals improve patient reporting systems and supported single parents who needed to remain near children receiving long-term treatment. She offered Marcus a senior position at Whitmore Biotech with a salary large enough to change his life. Marcus declined. "My life already has a center," he said, looking toward Lily. He accepted a different offer from Cole. 2 evenings each week, Marcus began teaching emergency observation skills to nurses, technicians, and first responders. He still repaired hospital equipment during the day, but he no longer used the maintenance level to hide from the part of himself that knew how to stand beside a frightened child. 3 weeks after Noah returned home, Marcus sat in the front row of the Lincoln Elementary Auditorium. The science showcase had been rescheduled after the storm, and Lily stood beneath a paper banner with her wooden bridge resting on the table before her. Across the aisle, Evelyn and Noah quietly took 2 empty seats. Noah wore soft hearing protection around his neck, but he looked healthy and alert. Lily saw them and smiled before beginning. "My project is about signals people miss when they think they already understand the problem," she said. She placed a small weight at the center of the bridge. It held. Then she pointed to the repaired support beneath it. "The strongest part is not always the part everyone can see." Marcus lowered his head for a moment, overwhelmed by how closely her words described the life he had spent years trying to hide. After the presentation, Noah handed Lily a blue ribbon for the bridge. "This one does not sing," he said. Lily laughed. Evelyn stopped beside Marcus. "The newspapers still say you did the impossible." Marcus watched Lily explain the bridge to Noah with complete seriousness. The impossible part was not finding the pattern. "What was it?" Evelyn asked. "Getting everyone to become quiet enough to hear a child before it was too late." Lily ran toward him and wrapped both arms around his waist. "Did you save him, Dad?" Marcus knelt until they were eye to eye. "A lot of people saved him, but you heard him first." Marcus smiled and adjusted the blue ribbon beneath her bridge. "Then maybe the best thing we can do for someone is make sure they are not alone when the world decides their voice does not matter." Lily took his hand. Noah took Evelyn's. Together, the 2 families walked out beneath a clear Chicago sky, carrying no perfect answers and no promise that life would never frighten them again. Only the quiet knowledge that dignity begins when one person chooses to listen and healing begins when pride finally becomes silent.